Hi grade 7s, as you can see here I am with Whitney's Kiss and this is chapter 9. Lucky took her hand as they walked to his house. When you didn't arrive after I sent you the letter, I thought you didn't want to be with me, he said. Are you kidding? I told you I had to go see Mrs. Pillay. She forced me to listen to one of her long sermons again, Whitney lied. Well, I'm glad you didn't forget about me. You've been through a rough time, he said and squeezed her hand. Forget about you? How could I forget about you, Lucky? You're the only one who hasn't turned against me. She took his hand in both of hers. It felt so good to be with him. Lucky's house was not far from the school. They went inside and he showed her around. Nobody else was at home, she noticed. They returned to the living room. Where's everyone? She asked. Don't you have a family? Only my mother lives here, but she works during the day. My father works on the mines, so he only comes home twice a year. And my older brother has moved in with his girlfriend, Lucky explained. He took her in his arms and put his nose against hers. We have the place all to ourselves, he whispered. Whitney felt her legs go weak. She'd been dreaming about this moment. Being close to Lucky seemed to take away all the painful thoughts and memories of the last few days. Yes, she wanted him. Her body told her that she wanted to go all the way with him. Then, the same questions as before in the storeroom came drifting in again. Was this wrong? Would it be right to go all the way? How could it be wrong to want somebody if you love that person? Why wait until you get married when you found the love of your life? Wasn't love what this was all about? And Whitney felt so loved, so wanted, and so pretty when she was with Lucky. She felt a strong desire to give all of herself to him. What are you thinking about? Is something wrong? Lucky asked, noticing that her mind was far away. No, nothing's wrong. I was just thinking about you, Whitney replied with a soft smile. And what were you thinking about me? He asked. But he did not wait for a reply. He pulled her close and gently kissed her on the lips. Any caution she might have had melted away. She returned his kiss and held him tightly, her eyes closed. Today I'm all yours, she thought. Suddenly he pulled away. Wait, not here, he said. Let's go to my room. He took her hand and led her to his room. She looked around. It was clearly a boy's room. He had put posters up everywhere, even on the ceiling. Some were of girls in bikinis, but most were old movie posters. There was a tiny desk with books and papers strewn all over it. An overfull dustbin stood next to the desk and a messy pile of clothes was draped over an old wooden chair. She could smell his deodorant lingering in the air. It made her feel at home. Lucky turned to Whitney and looked into her eyes. You are so beautiful, like a rose in the desert. And, well, I wrote a little poem for you, he said, somewhat gawkily, taking a small card out of his pocket. As he did so, a blue piece of paper accidentally came out with the card and fell on the ground. Lucky hastily picked it up, crumpled it, and skillfully lobbed it across the room into the dustbin. Then he handed the little card to Whitney. How romantic, she thought. And she opened it carefully to read the poem. She recognized Lucky's handwriting immediately. Roses are red, violets are blue. I went to heaven, and so can you. Whitney understood immediately what the little rhyme meant, and she felt her heart rate increase with nervous excitement. Lucky pulled her closer. Shouldn't we, use a thingy? She asked hesitantly. You know what I'm talking about, said Whitney. You mean a condom? Yes, I think we should use one, just to be safe, she said. No ways. It doesn't feel the same. You don't eat a sweet with a wrapper still on it, do you? Lucky said. She tried to convince him, but he would not budge. Eventually, he insisted that he didn't have one anyway, so it was all or nothing now. He assured her that she would be safe with him. Finally, she agreed, reluctantly. She knew she was taking a risk, but she thought it was worth it, just this one time. In the future, she would insist that he has a condom ready. She gazed into his beautiful, dark eyes again. Do you love me, Lucky? Do you really love me? She asked. Of course I do, baby, he replied quickly. You know I love you. Why do you ask if I love you? Oh, just because. He continued unbuttoning her blouse. If you have any doubts, they will disappear when I prove my love to you, Lucky said. That sounds like a line from a soap opera, Whitney thought. I don't have doubts. It's just nice to hear you say it. I'm so happy that you love me. Everyone else has rejected me because of this whole AIDS thing, she said. Just shows you who your friends are, he said as he gently stroked her neck. I can't believe even my best friend Lindiwe turned against me. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. Zola predicted Lindiwe's reaction. And she predicted that she would turn on you when she found out about your father's AIDS. It took a second for Lucky's words to sink in. Whitney froze. Something wasn't right here. Zola, you mean Lindiwe's older sister? The one who's in your class? She asked suspiciously. Yep, that's the one, Lucky said hesitantly, realizing that he'd said too much. But how did she know about my father's AIDS? Whitney asked, already trying to work out the answer. Her mind was racing. How could Zola have known before Lindiwe? If she was the one who told Lindiwe, then who had told Zola? Lucky tried to talk himself out of trouble. She probably heard from someone in your school, he mumbled, but it didn't sound convincing. Whitney didn't buy it. Nobody in my school knew it except Mrs. Pillay. I honestly thought she was the one who told Lindiwe, she said pensively. Suddenly it dawned on Whitney. But if Lindiwe heard it from Zola, then Mrs. Pillay must be innocent. She doesn't even know Zola, and Zola is in your class. You're the only one who... Are you accusing me now? Lucky suddenly snapped. Who else could it be? Where else could Zola have heard it? Whitney asked angrily. How am I supposed to know? News gets around. You know what it's like. Don't come blaming me now, he said in a raised voice. He clearly felt backed into a corner and responded by losing his temper. You're the only person who knew, and Zola is in your... It wasn't me, okay? He interrupted. Whitney was totally shocked. There was no other explanation. Lucky must have broken his promise and told Zola about her father. Why would he do that? She trusted him. She started trembling with rage. It was you. You betrayed me. Without thinking, she smacked Lucky on the cheek. Lucky swore loudly and shoved Whitney backwards with such force that she stumbled and fell, knocking over the chair and the dustbin. With a thud, she landed against the far wall. Take that! First you tried to seduce me in my own house, then you start accusing me, and now you hit me. Don't think I'm going to stand for that. Get out! Whitney just lay there, papers and clothes scattered all around her. She started sobbing. All the emotions of the last few moments had overwhelmed her. Her passion had turned to anger, and now her anger turned to pain. The bitter, stabbing pain of betrayal by someone she loved. How could this have happened? A few moments ago, she was ready to go all the way and sleep with this guy, and now he was pushing her around and shouting at her. What kind of person? Whitney's thoughts stopped mid-sentence when her eyes fell on the blue piece of paper that earlier fell out of Lucky's pocket. It must have fallen out the dustbin as she knocked it over. It looked like a letter to Whitney. Probably a love letter, she guessed. Through her tears, the words, "Dear Lucky," swam into focus, written in red ink along the top of the half-crumpled page. She felt a stab of bitter jealousy. "Stop acting like a baby and get out of my sight," Lucky hissed, glaring coldly at the sobbing girl lying on his bedroom floor. Whitney ignored him. She blinked away her tears and quickly grabbed the letter to scan the rest of it. The first sentence she read caused a chill to go down her spine. "I know it's over between us, but I had to let you know that I eventually went for an HIV test 2 months after that night we slept together, and I tested positive." Whitney went ice cold. She jumped to her feet with the letter in her hand. "Hey, what have you got there? Leave my stuff. I told you to get out." Lucky yelled and stormed towards her from across the room. "This letter, your last girlfriend," Whitney stammered in complete shock. You slept with her, and she is... You're HIV positive?" "Give it here. That's none of your business." Lucky grabbed the paper out of her hand and glanced at it quickly. "None of my business? How can you say it's none of my business? You were about to sleep with me," she screamed, and she ran for the door. "Whitney, wait, I can explain. I wasn't going to... Hey, your bag," he shouted, but she was already gone. She ran for her life. She didn't care about her bag. She was afraid he might follow her and try to stop her from leaving or do something to her. She'd never run this fast in her life. Fueled by adrenaline, she sprinted several blocks just to get away from Lucky's house. People looked at her, but she didn't notice. Only later did she realize that her blouse was still unbuttoned, so she buttoned it up quickly. She wanted to run home, but it was too far. Mrs. Pillai's house, that was much closer. She could run there in 5 minutes, maybe less. Lucky did not follow her. He hoped she would remember her bag and come back. He would think of a way to explain everything. He would talk his way out of this mess. What's a few more lies? Lies had always made him lucky. And that brings us to the end of chapter 9. So keep your eyes out for chapter 10.